You know, Jaren, when we started this show, I kind of arbitrarily named it Season 1, not thinking ahead to why I would do that or what the purpose of it would be. But over the last couple of years, I think that it's fair to say that we're at the end of a season. And I say that because, if this was the military and your mission was to learn everything about G.I. Joe, I think that you should not be classified as a private any longer. And so I'm promoting you and all of our listeners. If you started listening to our show in the beginning, didn't know anything about it, I feel like you know enough now to hold a pretty capable conversation about G.I. Joe. So congratulations. Welcome to Season 2. My specialist Jaren and all the other specialist viewers and watchers out there. I thought, how could we celebrate a new season, basically a jumping on point for everybody, a rebirth of the show. And then I thought, well, what if we hire a professional musician and an internet celebrity to write a brand new theme song for our brand new intro? Let's go, motherfucker!
Yo, what's up? It's Froggy Fresh. Y'all go check out my boys on the Anything Joe's podcast. Let's get it. Got my G.I. Joes, got my comic books, watching cartoon episodes. Watch me go and box, dead stop, Jaren on his toes. Watch me go and lock a whole new world you never know. On my freaking block, on my block, Anything Joe's. Roll my badger into work today. Yes sir, no sir, I can't call this work today. I'm too clutch, ain't no pun intended. Call me sir today. Check the prices out, my collection feeling bird today. Anything Joe, 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 Joe.
Hello everyone and welcome back to Anything Joe's. My name is Greg Engel.
And I'm Jaren Decker.
And we'll be your host today. That's right, I don't even say the full title of the show anymore. Things are changing around here.
Oh no.
But before we get into the new stuff, we're going to take a quick look back at 2023 at some what is now already considered to be old stuff. We're going to Jaren and I have both secretly compiled a top 10 list, and we're going to compare them and see what made the final cut for what, the most popular part of the line and the most popular figures from that line. Before we start our list, I wanted to talk to you briefly, Jaren, about your criteria for making this list, because, again, that's something we didn't discuss beforehand, and I think you and I will have pretty different approaches to it. When I was selecting my top 10 classified figures, the things I took into account were primarily just, I don't know what the word would be, funability. Just when I look at a figure, how badly did I feel the need to open it, pose it, play it, interact with it in general. The character that's selected is going to always be a big deal for me. Sometimes a figure that I really want that's not that great is more important to me than a fantastic figure of a character that I'm not that interested in. There are things like quality control that I took into consideration. Figures that just across the board had problems that I thought eliminated them from being selected for that specific reason. Those are the kind of the big talking points that I rolled into my list. How did you compile your list?
Yeah, so, I think there is some similarities for the way that we compiled our list. With me, I don't have as much of a character connection as you do, so that they're a little bit more on a level playing field. For me, it was just like, which one is the most fun to just have in hand and play with? Which one is kind of maybe sometimes a little more weird, a little out there sometimes, but it really came down to how they felt in hand. If my figure, I didn't even think about kind of quality control as a whole, but if the specific figure I had wasn't working, like my Crimson Bat, I don't even know if that was 2023, I can't remember, but it doesn't matter because it sat up there and it hasn't been moved since because his arm just detaches and so does his leg. So those are the things for me that kind of really factored in. And my number one, and I'm not going to spoil anything, but like that number one is always like on my table, like ready to be played with, because that's kind of the most important thing for me. Which one's the funnest to mess around with? So like accessories and things like that really do kind of have a big kind of impact on what they rank for me as well.
Okay, great. Yeah, it seems like we do have some similarities then, although I do still feel our lists are going to be radically different. With that in mind, let's take a look at our top 10 G.I. Joe classified figures.
Top 10 classified figures of all time, 2023 edition.
Number 10 on my list is Kamakura.
Wow.
Is Kamakura on your list?
No.
Okay, so Kamakura is on my list for a couple reasons, and if you know me pretty well, you probably know that one of the big reasons is it was such an unlikely selection. Kamakura is basically DOA. That character has been sort of wiped out of the continuity when Larry picked back up and turned him into Throwdown. So I felt like the odds of getting a figure like that were minimal. He's a well-done figure. He was like one of those like miniature, like deluxe juniors, because he has an alternate head, so you can have him unmasked and masked. I don't know. It just harkens back to a time when G.I. Joe was a little bit different, and I love that about it. I love that it continues to illustrate that this line can go in any direction. You have no idea. They're not just serving one type of fan base. They know about people like me, too, that like the weird stuff. So tell me why you didn't put Kamakura on your list.
So I'm not as into the ninja side. I have red ninjas, blue ninjas, Kamakura, even like Storm Shadow and the ninja, more ninja Snake Eyes. They're not ones that are normally higher up on my list. And so I think that was a big part. I didn't know that he became Throwdown. That honestly would have helped him if I had realized that was a thing. And ironically enough, though, if I had gotten my nunchuck in earlier, he is moving up the list for me. So I say I don't really like the ninjas, and then I'm like, nunchuck, I want that guy. So take everything I say with a grain of salt. I don't make sense, and I don't understand it myself, but I can understand it. In knowing you and the way you like things in that kind of more deep cut, really like it. I am surprised, but I shouldn't be surprised.
So, all right, then we're off to a good start. What is your number 10 selection?
As I said, I don't really like ninjas, so number 10 is Snake Eyes.
What the heck? Which Snake Eyes are we talking about?
So it's actually like it's a tie between the Walmart, the retro, just because I like the design, the kind of the smoothness of his body, and there are so many accessories with that figure. That's one, and then the like green pants Snake Eyes Commando that came with the white timber. Really like that figure as well. I like the design. He's got like that little bit different of a tone, more than just the straight black. But I mean, he's Snake Eyes. Like I'm a new fan, or not a new fan. I'm a specialist now, and I specialize in not making sense. So Snake Eyes is 10.
Okay, well, first of all, you're cheating because you put 2 Snake Eyes in one spot.
Did you want me to put all 12?
No, I did not. Second of all, Snake Eyes is not on my list because I don't even own the retro one, as a matter of fact, because by the time that had already hit, I was already feeling the like burnout of just being like another Snake Eyes again and again. So yeah, to be perfectly honest, the Snake Eyes that I have open is still the very first one that came out, and I'm just like, I don't think there's really anything wrong with this one. I don't know. I don't need a lot. I'm not a huge ninja guy myself either. So when it comes to a character like Snake Eyes that I've seen hundreds of figures of, I'm just like, you're gonna have to really do something very special for it to catch my attention. I'm props for the timber, but he ain't. I got bigger fish to fry on this list. Number 9. Oh well, this is a good one. Number 9. My number 9 spot is Firefly V2. So, the idea that we've already looped around to we need better versions of figures that we already got is an unfortunate reality. And I was resistant to it at first, I guess. But if this Firefly, above all others, I feel like squashes that need, because the Firefly they put out is amazing. It really does capture kind of what they're going for right now. Is an improvement on the other one I say improvement, but really there's nothing wrong with the Firefly V1. It's just a modernization of an existing figure. So I think they work kind of together well, but I'm glad to have one that's more authentic to the original Firefly. I think the design is good. I think the accessories are good. The overall figure compatibility with this Firefly is amazing. Where is Firefly V2 on your list, if at all?
Well, you're a real so-and-so for doing this. He's actually number 1, baby. I love this figure.
You're number 1.
I love him. He is the one that like is always. Of course, I say he's always on my desk, but he's been fighting a battle, and now he's back here with all the other Joes. He is like he's a little bit weird because he's got like I don't know. He just got kind of a unique design. He has a really well done body mold. He's got like a little RC car that's also a bomb. He's got a little bitty remote control. He's just so much fun. Now I don't ever really use his goggles just because I like the face printing that they did on him. But I love that figure. The weapons that they gave him are incredible. And now I have to try. Somebody used a Black Series Darth Malgus head as an unmasked head for him, and I really want to try it because it looked really cool. And if it's easy, I might do it just for fun because it's such a great figure. It's absolutely incredible, and that's why it's number one.
I guess I'm not surprised by the fact that you're so unpredictable, Jaren. I can never. If I had to make what I thought was going to be on your top 10 list, I don't even think we would be close. But that's what I enjoy about it, is hearing your perspective on it. Your number one choice. That is wild to me. I would be interested in seeing if other listeners agree with that.
Yeah.
What is your number 9 choice?
So this one is going all the way back. It's actually the Roadblock. For me, it's the Amazon exclusive Heavy Artillery Roadblock. I love that figure. And I kitted him out with some gridiron gear as well. And that might be cheating. I don't know. If it is, I'm sorry. But I love that figure. He is a staple of when I do get out. I don't post a lot of the pictures that I take anymore just because I have like this weird thing where I have like this internal quality control, and I'm like, that's not good enough. No one wants to see that. But he is almost always in the photos that I take. So when I grab a bunch of figures, I like to grab that figure. I think he provides a unique look. He is he's a little bit different than a lot of the other figures that are out there, other than the other Roadblocks and the heavy duty that's a Roadblock but not a Roadblock. So that figure to me is just it's such a cool one. It is the right amount of homage while also being updated. It's just really cool.
Yes, I agree.
Is he on your list?
He is not on my list, so we're off to a running start. Not because I have any specific issues with him. We're just talking with Firefly about figures that got revamped, and so you would think, hey, this is our third Roadblock already, and that does seem excessive. But every point you make is absolutely true. Both of the Roadblocks we got prior were underwhelming to a certain degree. First Roadblock's gun is insane. Second Roadblock's gun doesn't even look like him. So I had no complaints about getting this figure. It is a great figure, but in terms of playability, it was more just like, yes, this is somebody I need in my lineup, not something that I was like, I got to get out and play with it. And maybe that's because I already had 2 at this point, but still, great choice.
Now, before we move on, I do want to take the moment to say I actually liked the original Roadblock, and I would like to see if they feel like it's feasible in any way, and maybe I'm not alone, a return to a little bit of that weirder styling, that little bit more like unique, kind of pushing that envelope a little bit. I really did actually like Roadblock's one of the figures that, like, the original release, the repaint, and then the Amazon exclusive. I like every version of that figure.
Well, I know several places where you can pick up that second crappy one if you are interested in stock value. Okay, number 8. My number 8 is Shipwreck.
Oh.
I struggle a lot with figures that don't do anything wrong, but they are not reinventing the wheel. And like Grunt, I think, is a good example of this. There's nothing wrong with that Grunt figure. It's a faithful rendition of the original Grunt, but it doesn't excite me on any level because the original Grunt is pretty boring when it comes right down to it. I'm not saying it's not a figure I didn't want or enjoy, but in terms of stuff that actually gets me excited to like interact with my figures and do stuff with them, that wasn't it. Shipwreck was a tough call because there's really nothing remotely different with this Shipwreck, but I do think there is a line you cross where you're just like, this figure is so good. And the Shipwreck's a perfect example. There's a lot of different roads they could have taken with this Shipwreck, so I thought we were lucky to get like the interchangeable hair, finally having a Shipwreck that has a hat that comes off, a poly that works in a really practical way to put him on the rope or on his arm. It's not intrusive in any way, and it's removable. I just thought it was a home run. There's a kind of a slew of figures from this year that are just like so on the nose, but are also not reinvigorating the figure in any way. And I hate to be too critical of that, which is why I've got to emphasize that our 2 top 10 lists are for much different reasons. I'm really just going on the stuff that really gets me excited for the line. This Shipwreck does it. This is also one of the first figures that came out when they were really nailing down details like arm hair and stuff. So the hair on his chest, the hair on his arms is all like just really adds an extra level of depth to it, I think. It's a great figure. Is it so good that it's on your list?
It's not. It would probably be in the next. It would probably be in the next like range. Like if we did a 11 through 20, he would probably be in there. I really do like it. The only thing that kept me out of it is I think it's honestly it's not a problem with the figure itself. It's just with the design of the character. Like to me, like he's got a flintlock pistol, and I'm like, I'm not gonna take him out and try to have him fighting the Hiss tank. You know, like it's just it doesn't in my headcanon in the universe. Like I need to, and maybe I use my other version that I've built. I made a custom Shipwreck with his like green suit and stuff. Maybe I can give him a little bit more gear. And use that to kind of usher him in. But the figure's really cool. I do like his accessories, and Polly's really great. It's just lacking for me.
Hasbro's taking notes like, all right, don't change anything. Oh wait, but do change some things. There it is. We represent two completely different criteria for the fans.
Yeah.
Okay,
we are their market research.
Who is your number 8 choice?
So number 8, and this might surprise people, and this is one that I really wanted to put a lot higher. This is one that I wanted to be number 1 so bad. It's Tripwire. Number 8 is, I mean, it's high. We have a lot of figures that have come out, but my love for that character, I was really hoping, and it's nothing that the figure necessarily does wrong. It's more just limitations with going that accurate to the body. He's a little bit. The maneuverability of the figure is just lacking enough to where I'm like, I almost wish he wasn't as faithful. I do love that they gave us so much gear, and the little Apsara or whatever, the little mouse that comes with him, such a clever little detail that they added. So like he came with a lot of stuff. They made it for me, honestly. And when they shut off, I'm like, I feel like they made it for me. And still, I'm like, it reminds me of the Cobra Commander that came with the Hiss tank, where I'm like, this is perfect, almost. Like it's right there where I'm like, this could have been number 1. But there's something about the in-hand. Really, it's just that little bit of movement, kind of how he moves with all the gear and how thick he feels, that sets it off a little bit. But my kid loves the figure. He's one of my 3-year-old son. It's one of his favorite because he has the little mouse. He comes in and he said, Dad, can I play with the little squeak? And I'm like, absolutely. I've got 2 of them. Let's play with both of them. Will they get lost? Probably. But hey, like, it's fun. And like, that's what I'm here for. Like, that's what, like, I want my kid to love these things like I do. So he does that does bump him up and keep him in the top 10, even though he just feels just off.
So I'll follow up on that thought, because Tripwire is not on my list. I'm actually maybe disappointed is too strong of a word, but I basically skimmed right over this figure. I don't think he needed to be a Deluxe Junior. I could have done without all the little stuff. He is very like Hurt Locker-ish, and that makes him kind of like can't bend arms because so much padding. And also the face mold, which I like. I don't feel like it captures the spirit of Tripwire. It doesn't look like Tripwire to me. I don't know. There's something about it that just doesn't jam with me. I'm glad he's made. I know I say that a lot because he's a figure that would get ignored in almost any other line. But it bounced right off of me. I think a slim down version, like what you're describing, that looks more like the actual figure or how he looks in the comic. Yeah. Get rid of a lot of the extra stuff. I just need a mine detector and the mines. And I'd be and a removable helmet. You know, that's a big deal for me. But he did not make my cut. Again, disappointed might be too strong, but it's not far off. I literally opened him and was like, okay, this is a figure. Next. Next up on the list, my number 7. My number 7 decision is Zorana. Zorana is one of the early female figures that we got, kind of. I mean, and I'm glad that we did, because I feel like they had to work out some kinks in the early wave. You know, the first Scarlet has got costume design issues. Lady J has got a weird blank face, but Zorana is pretty much perfect. It was when they were first starting to experiment with the concept of the alternate hair, and that works out well because you had the classic hair and then you've got kind of a modern hair. So just with that one little trick, you can make the figure seem quite a bit different. I feel like the accessories are spot on. There's no quality issues with it. It looks great. It's a great foundation for any female figure, really, but a figure that's as important to me as she is. I feel like they knocked it out.
Yeah.
Is Zorana on your list?
No, she's not.
Wow.
I like
covered 20 different figures.
A whole lot. We're probably going to end up, other than that you stole my number 1. But so she is. So what I did, I don't know how you assembled your list. What I did is I imported I downloaded a photo of every classified figure, and I went into a tier maker, and I was like, here's S, here's A, here's whatever, and like 60-75% of all my figures were in S, so then I had to make another tier and be like 10.
S minus, S plus plus.
These are the 10 figures, and then there's everything else. So she was in that S tier, and there are a lot of figures. Like even Tripwire, like I harp on him, but like even that, I'm like, really, like for what we got, like he really is incredible. Zorana, did I say it wrong? I love that figure, and I think we have different hair on the figures that we have selected.
Almost certainly, yeah.
And I love like she had that like cutting tool with like the heat on it. Like, it looked really cool, and I liked that they did that. And to harken to like what you say, it is a figure that is a little more out there and a little, but it's just she's almost too far out there for me that I'm like, she's cool, but like the figure is really cool, but I'm like, I don't know anything. I don't know what to do with her. But now as we're getting dreadnoughts, there we go. As we're getting them, she kind of is finding her place in my collection, so that might bump her up as we go.
Right on. What is your number 7?
Number 7, and this is another one following in that same vein of Tripwire, where I was like, I want this to be, like, this should be competing for number 1, and it was just a notch below, and it's Chuckles, actually. I love Chuckles. I love the design, and to say all the great things about him, the amount of accessories, the care to detail, the packaging, even on the Chuckles, is absolutely incredible. I mean, yes, phenomenal. With it being a con exclusive, it was not hard to get. I don't know of anyone who missed out. If you did, I'm sorry. But from my experience, everyone I talked to that wanted to get him was able to get him. And it's such a cool figure. The everything. I don't really know what exactly my problem is with him. It's to keep him out of that number 1, number 2 spot, because it is a character I actually care so much about. It's just, there were figures that, honestly, probably there's just figures that I ended up surprising me and therefore getting that bump. Whereas like with Chuckles, I was like, I'm going to love this figure. And then it came in and I was like, oh, I love this figure. Whereas with, honestly, almost every other figure on my list was like, lower expectations, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is a great figure, like this is incredible. So it's just kind of a victim of where he came out at and things like that, but man, he's incredible. So does Chuckles make your list?
No, he doesn't.
Oh my gosh. Greg.
So I think I also greatly appreciate the character of Chuckles. I enjoy him now more than ever, and I'm glad that he got made. And I will second that the packaging design for this figure is great. But almost everything this is another case of a deluxe that I don't like the deluxes. I don't like the alternate head. A lot of the accessories, I'm like, I'm not going to use this. It's a little too impractical. Like that flower lei. I'm like, this is good for one photo. He's not going to wear this in combat ever. As a matter of fact, just today I was like reposing some stuff on my shelf. The only thing I have with my Chuckles is he's holding that little manila envelope of like top secret info. He can't really hold it very well. It falls out of his hand all the time. In addition to the like bits and pieces not really working for me, the figure itself is not as posable. Just not, I don't know. It looks just kind of like disjointed. It's made out of old parts that don't work for it. Something there just doesn't click, and I feel like for that price point, it really should. I think the design of the figure is good. I think the architecture of it is bad, if that makes sense. Everything they made cosmetically, like the detailing of the face, the way his outfit looks, all good. But the parts they use just don't seem to like click together. It's not a specific quality control issue. I'm just like, he looks awkward, and that's really the thing that kicked him out. I think he's a good figure otherwise.
Well, he does come with Soundwave, so that's a bonus.
But
I understand what you're saying about the kind of the construction, because they've done that a few times now. That especially like the Steel Brigade, that was one that the part use that they chose unfortunately wasn't the best, and so I can understand that.
It's super common to reuse parts, and it's just an accepted reality of being a collector of Hasbro products. And I don't have a problem with that. I have a problem with you do it and you can't do it well. If you can't do it well, don't do it. Just don't do it. We'll wait until you got a time to make a brand new mold, as opposed to getting some trash. All right, number 6. Number 6 is a tough call for me. Probably could have worked its way up the list harder if I thought harder about it, but I tried not to overthink this list. My number 6 is Scrap Iron. Scrap Iron is the perfect example of a figure that looks real basic. Looks just like V1 Scrap Iron. There's really no major deviations in this design. And yet, it still captures the imagination when you get him in hand. This is also a great example of a deluxe figure that kills it. Like, Scrap Iron should come with a missile launcher, rocket launcher of some sort. And they took that opportunity to modernize that accessory to give it like treads. It has firing effects, which I know people are divided on, but if there was ever a figure that I would want it with, it would be this guy. I like the little remote control thing that he comes with. They showed the burn on his face, which is that's kind of lost in the mythology. Not all Scrap Irons are like that. The colors are spot on. He's got a great color scheme. The design is perfect. He's fun. He's the figure that we were like, when we were at Winterfest, we were taking him out. You were posing and playing, making photos with him. Yeah. And it's not hard to see why. He's just got a lot of like exuberant energy coming out of him. When I see him, I'm just like, yeah, this guy is kicking ass and taking names. And that's what I love about him. Did Scrap Iron make your list?
He's number 11.
Oh, get out of here.
He was the last cut. No joke. He was on my list, and it came down to figure v figure for him and Snake Eyes. And it honestly came down to, if I'm going to go do something with a figure, I grab Snake Eyes, I have him. If I grab Scrap Iron, he has to have that drone. Without that drone, he's just... It doesn't work. So that was what pushed me over the edge. I can't agree with you more on Scrap Iron. And another figure that might make its way up the list next time we do these, we had the Wolf Spider, Parth Varma. He's the new figure. He uses the body of Scrap Iron. And that figure, it was the same thing with him when I got Scrap Iron. I was like, man, this is fun to play with. I like moving him. Like, just such a cool figure. Scrap Iron, the details are incredible. I love that little thing that they gave him. It looks like a drone remote, like a flying drone, but it's got the little satellite things to go out. It's such a cool feature. And then like the paint detail, one of the best faces in the line in my opinion, just absolutely incredible. So I can understand, but that was one that was hard. And it was kind of the same thing you were, where he was as high as probably top 5, and then he dropped down, and it was just it was a very, if you ask me tomorrow, he might be top 5. Like, I've made 30 lists, and I try not to overthink it, and it's so hard. Like, there are so many great figures that deserve to be up here, and these are just what I landed on. So, I mean, kudos to Scrap Iron.
I mean, it is funny that we have completely different lists, but it also speaks to what a crazy year it's been for G.I. Joe Classifieds, that there's just so much to choose from. So if he's not your number 6, who is your number 6?
similar vein, it's Serpentor.
Okay, now we're cooking.
Yeah, I absolutely. So I am a fan of large figures. I said it with Roadblock. There's that gives them a bump. So there might be other things that might lack, but not on Serpentor. He comes with the air chariot. He's got multiple big old machine guns that attach to the side of it. You don't like this snake head? Okay, well here's another one. You don't like the little claws? Here's longer ones. Like you want him to have an actual snake? Here you go. So many incredible accessories. The design on it is incredible. Seeing Lenny talk about it when he's going through the design and showing it off was awesome, and having that backstory of hearing the design really, really helps. He's very posable. The cape doesn't really mess with him too much, at least on mine. I haven't had any issues with it, and just how easy it is to get him onto his air chariot. That's not an easy thing for people to do. There's a lot of figures and toys that come with things that are hard to get on. Like there's the Black Series speeder bikes. Those are not easy to kind of get on. But the Serpentor air chariot, he goes right on there. He can hand onto it. His feet peg on. Incredible. I love that figure. The packaging, once again, on that figure was awesome. Very good job on those exclusives they've done so far for the last couple. Incredible. This is one where you can tell me tomorrow and Serpentor might be number one. These top 10 are so varied, and I love this figure. So, obviously, we have to be Serpentor, right? He's got to be on your list.
Yes. So Serpentor is my number 2 choice.
Okay.
And I'm going to try not to echo the things that you just said, but briefly, yes, the packaging is excellent. The vehicle is excellent. The figure is excellent. This is what I would call a mega deluxe. It was extremely expensive, and I want to make sure I'm getting my value. And this is one of those figures where everything you listed, like the extra cowl, the snakes. If I take the vehicle out of the equation and we're just talking about figures, Serpentor is not a character that gets a lot of figures. The vintage run, 1 Serpentor. The modern run, there's like 3, maybe 4 Serpentors. Not a lot of variety. It gets overlooked as much as a character like Kamakura does. So I was glad that they got him out of the gate right away. Obviously, the air chariot, absolutely, yes, it rules. All captures the vintage vibe of what Serpentor stands for, with lots of cool little nods, and they didn't deviate from the formula. It's, in my opinion, it is right up there. It was very close to not being number 1. And also, I love Serpentor. Serpentor gets forgotten over, he gets overlooked for other Cobra leaders for a long time. So I was just thrilled that this figure got announced, got made, and just delivered. And I actually had a small quality control issue with my Serpentor. I'm still throwing that out because it's such a strong figure. Just an absolute blast from start to finish.
Nice. So
number
5.
This number 5 is my only troop builder. I typically am not wowed by troop builders across the board because I'm not troop building classified figures for starters. So they have to really knock it out of the park, and this one did. It's the Cobra Eels. Cobra Eels is the perfect selection of a troop builder, an underrepresented type in the Cobra. There's not a lot of water guys in general. And so when you're pumping out Vipers, Army Viper, like the Alley Vipers, Night Vipers, whatever, you get a little bit of just like another Viper. But the Eels are kind of like their own thing. And they did such a good job. There's a reason there was such a high demand, and still is, I assume, for them, because people wanted multiples of them. They captured exactly what's great about the Eels. It was a standard figure, but still came with a lot of accessories that really made him look geared up for deep diving. It's just one of those things where they was like, this is like one of the genuinely maybe my favorite troop builder of the entire line, with the exception of maybe the OG Cobra Bat. I don't know. It's weird for a troop builder to break the list, but I kept coming back to just how strong the build was on this figure. Are the Cobra Eels on your list?
No, I'm not going to make suspense on that one. It honestly, it comes down to the biggest thing on the Cobra Eels is I don't have a lake. I don't have water. For me, the biggest thing for me is when I take them out and I play with them. I don't feel like I don't want to get wet, so I don't want to bring out, and that's probably what hurt Shipwreck as well. I don't want to get wet, so why would I bring out the torpedo figure? Same thing. I really enjoyed that figure, but once I put him on the shelf, he's kind of just stayed there. They have a very unique purpose. They serve that purpose, and they do it very well. The figure is excellent, but it's not something that is in my vein that I use regularly. I took it to the lake one time. I had a really fun time using it. I got some cool shots with it, and I was like, oh, this is really cool. But then when I came home, I was like, well, okay. Put him back up, and he's sitting there.
That's fair. I mean, that all makes perfect sense. So, if not that, what is your number 5?
Another kind of pseudo troop builder that you don't enjoy apparently is Grunt. I love that. Grunt to me has served the purpose that I think a lot of Joe collectors got into, even back in the OG. Grunt, I have used that body and that set of gear, and I have made a whole squad with different heads, different bodies, different gear, and use that as kind of the baseline for my own green shirt. So I've got the regular Grunt kind of in charge, and in a lot of the original release figures, anything that has a predominantly green, he's going in that squad. They're going in that squad with him. So they kind of occupy that tip of the spear kind of force for me. When you need an actual, like, hey, we're getting in here, we're going in, we're going to send all these guys, that's what this is. So I've got, I've taken that regular Grunt, I've got a heavy weapons Grunt, I've got a sniper Grunt, so there's a whole squad of these guys. Even, like, I took the Kamakura head and put it on the Grunt body and made a version of him he's got, like, the M249 saw, like, he's got a, big LMG, like, ready to throw down. So, like, for me, I feel like this Grunt let me experience something that I think a lot of other people got to experience beforehand because they were in that collection. Or even modern figures. I'm not good enough to do a lot of customs, but I can do simple kit bashes, and that's made it really nice for me to have something as just like a base mold and to kind of build up from there. And so I love that. I love that figure.
Yeah, I'm not going to deny that the customization perspective on Grunt is very, very strong. And I also, yes, the possibility of this being like a blank green shirt, essentially, that you can do whatever you want to, I think is also good. But in terms of just, hey, it's Grunt, I don't know, it did not click with me. It was a perfectly good figure. I'm real big on trying to get the original 13 made, and I don't even know if I would want them to deviate from the formula, but in terms of like end of the year excitement, Grunt is a figure that I opened, kitted up, put to the side, because I just was like, yeah, it's a Grunt.
Yeah.
All right, number 4. My number 4 choice is Helix. Now,
shocker.
You might think that Helix should be higher up on this list, and I understand where that would come from, but my love for specific characters only carries something so far. And although I do really think there's anything especially wrong with that Helix figure, it still only goes. That still only takes me so far, I suppose. I would have never stopped talking about this if they did not make this Helix figure. We would be talking about it every single year until it came out, and I think they did a very good job. I don't feel like there's any strong need to alter this figure in any way, except that I do think that little twig of hair should just be a part of the regular hair, and those blades that are like attached to her wrist, I could have done without. All that aside, there's a reason. My top 4, maybe my top 5, I really have almost nothing negative to say about. These are figures that I got, was anxiously awaiting, opened them up right away, bought multiples, just figures that I do come back to. And of course, Helix was going to be on this list, but in the fairness to the line itself, again, the popularity of a character is only going to get it so far. I also need exceptional execution, which is why a character like Serpentor is ranked higher, because it checks all those boxes and then just a little extra check. So yes, I'm thrilled about this figure. I don't really have any complaints. Jaren, we're awfully high up on the list, so I got a sneaking suspicion that Helix is not on there. What is Helix on your list?
No, not at all. Not even close. And listen, you've already promoted me to specialist, so you can't demote me now, baby. So, no, I get why you like it. I'm glad they made the character for you. I don't know if it's just my figure, but having it in hand, I was underwhelmed. It felt a little like my joints were a little loose and a little wonky. There was nothing on the figure that was like, oh, this is super cool. I've not seen anything like this before. She was fine. Like on my tier list, she was not in the S tier. Like she was lower towards the very bottom of the tier, but she was above the Red Ninjas at least. That's good.
Oh my gosh.
Right there with the Blue Ninjas, though. No, I'm just kidding. She was fine, and it's maybe I'll warm up to her as I like that we are getting more female representation in the line. I think that's something G.I. Joe did great back in the 80s, so I'm glad they're doing it now, giving us more characters. Keep coming. Give us a brand new character, kind of like how we did with Wolf Spider. I think it's great, but it's just that figure specifically. And it might have been a quality control issue on mine. Really loose joints really was the thing that really hampered it for me. Although I do really like the handguns that she had.
Yeah, I just kind of went numb there for a second while you were saying negative things about my favorite character. What's your number 4 choice? I'll try to not decimate it like you just did to my girl.
All right, so number 4 for me. And this one, I think, will be the biggest shocker of the whole list, without a doubt, hands down. And I don't even really remember if it's 23, but I think it was. It's going to be Duke. I love Duke. The Duke figure. Technically, we're going off the Tiger Force with the Ram, because I love that he came with the Ram, even with the bright red gun. I don't care. But even going back to the original Duke, I still have my shiny gold Duke. I have the custom Duke that I did with this extra shiny Duke that I had. I've got the repaint Duke. I've got all the Dukes. I love the Duke figure. So hate on it if you want, Greg. You can tear it apart, but me and my family of Dukes will be happy over here because he's classic and amazing and perfect. And I honestly don't even care that they're going to be releasing another one because I'm already happy with the Duke I have at home.
I was not prepared for this highly controversial opinion. There is no, I wouldn't put that Duke. I wouldn't put either of the Dukes that have come out so far. I wouldn't put them in my top 100. It's not. I don't think that's a good figure at all. And I think that retro Duke looks great. I'm flabbergasted. We just got to move on. I'm just gonna get hateful. My number 3 choice. My number 3 choice is Outback. Now, ooh. Outback is another fan favorite, obviously, for me. And there's a reason that I would put it above Helix. And it's because I think it does a better job of capturing the spirit of the character. This is, again, another figure that came out really early on in the, arm hair, chest hair phase. And for whatever reason, maybe because Outback is such a mountain man, I feel like it really, puts a lot of depth and detail into this character. I was... when they're going to make a figure and it's somebody that you really care about, you're always worried they're going to mess it up. And it's very rare for me to set my expectations as high as they are for Outback. Outback, literally my favorite G.I. Joe character of all time. And so when I got it, I was just amazed at how... I knew what I was getting into with the Tiger Force version, which is another... I would put this on the same place. That's another great variation of a figure. It just came out in the wrong order. But I think this figure... It delivers across the board. Outback is not too complicated. Shirt and khakis or jeans or whatever, and then he's got all his gear, and that's really all I need. And that's something that I liked about him a lot. Was I was just like, this guy's so just an outfit. No thanks. I'm a jungle guy or a survival dude. I just need this shirt that has my motto on it, basically. Jaren, I don't even think we need to ask anymore. Just tell me what your number 3 is, and we'll go from there. Actually, tell me why Outback isn't on your list, because I'm fairly confident our top 3 is not going to be the same.
Yeah, I actually really do like the Outback. This is probably the most petty reason why I don't have him on my top 10, because the figure's great, accessory, like everything. The only thing is the rifle that he comes with. Two things wrong with it. I don't like any assault rifle without like a butt. It just seems weird to me. Also, if you're gonna give me a rifle with a strap on it, just don't actually. I don't like it, because then you can't. For some reason, my immersion gets broke when he's holding the gun like this or like this, and the gravity is still letting that thing just hang that way instead of down. Like, I don't know why. It shouldn't matter, but it does to me. So that honestly, as petty as that sounds, is the only reason. Because I love that Tiger Force Outback as well, with the white hair and the tiger. I mean, it's perfect. Yeah. Why wouldn't you put him up there? He would definitely be up there if I didn't have some weird tick against that thing.
That's not petty at all, because the V1 vintage Outback also has that same. It's the same gun, same strap, and I don't know anybody that played with that gun, because the strap made it so he would hold the gun like, I don't know if I have anything to use an example, but you'd put it in his hand and he would have to hold it like this. He couldn't point it straight. This is a big pet peeve of mine. Pistols with G.I. Joes are the same way. They could never hold a pistol and aim it like this. They'd always have to like it, or you'd have to put it weird. So it holds true. You're right. It is a problem. I completely agree with it. But luckily, I don't focus a lot on the accessory side of things, just the figure part of things. Yeah. So, what's your number 3 choice?
So number 3, also probably going to be another one. Not as big of a surprise as Duke, but number 3 is Lowlight. Lowlight is a figure for me that when it came out, I was like, I couldn't care less about this guy. Like, when he got announced, I was like, he's cool. Like, he's a sniper. And then when I got him, I'm like, oh, this guy's actually, like, really cool. I like his goggles. I like his rifle. I love that they gave the case and, like, actually let him, like, carry it around and stuff. It's incredible. Really cool accessories, great figure. And I've seen some people that are incredible at posing him to where he can actually lay down and really get into that sniper's kind of prone position. Incredible figure. Great accessories, and one that, like, and I think you might notice that, especially like with Firefly being the number 1. I liked the original release Firefly, so those figures that I didn't have as high of an expectations for, that were just in my opinion super well executed, are the ones that, like, really jump to the forefront of my mind. So that's why Lowlight, which is, there's no way he's on your list, right?
No.
Okay.
He is not. A good figure, great accessories, but again, just kind of gives me the mopies. I'm just like, I got 4 figures all in at once from the, like, floodgates, and it was like Lowlight, Grunt, and that Firefly V2, and somebody else. And of those lot, I was like, this is a great faithful adaptation, but it doesn't I don't know, it just didn't spark anything in my imagination. It was a lot like that when the Dusty figure came out. I was like, there's nothing wrong with this figure, but there's really nothing right with it either. Yeah, that's kind of how I felt about that Lowlight. I do think that Lowlight is a perfectly well executed figure, but it just didn't drive it home for me for whatever reason. Falls in with just kind of a lump of average guys.
Top 2.
Right, so yeah, well, I mean, not even that, because we know my number 2. We know your number 1. So we only have 2 left to wrap up. What's your number 2 choice, since mine's already been revealed?
Okay, my number 2 is, and this was the hardest of the whole list. 2 to number 1. Number 2 is Shooter. I love that figure. That has, other than Firefly, Shooter has been the one. She's actually in my Grunt squad, even though she's not predominantly green. But just because I'm like, she's dope, and she's going to be in charge of it. Even though Grunt's kind of the head guy, she's in charge now. Step aside. I got the figure. The accessories are absolutely incredible. I like the boots. Whoever wants to hate on the boots, go ahead. They're cool. That she's got the coolest shoes in all the G.I. Joe team. Guess what? A lot of other people have sucky ankles and sucky sockets, and they don't even have cool shoes to show for it. So I'm looking at you, Tunnel Rat. You don't even have a shin cut, loser.
You're not even on this list.
You don't even go here. Having different hair styles is incredible. Seeing a person of color, a woman of color at that, so predominant in an action figure, having a daughter, two daughters that are women of color, incredible. That when I can be like, hey, look at all these cool figures, and they can point at one and be like, look, that looks like me. The hair, seeing the braids, and knowing how much time it takes for my daughter's hair to be in braids like that, but the attention to detail on that is absolutely incredible. The more I talk about her, the more I'm like, gosh, she should have been number one. Screw you, Firefly, you're down to 2 now. But no, I love that figure, and like, just the fact that we came so far and classified from the original release of Scarlet having that single jointed elbows and being able to get this much, and now having a shooter with full range of motion, real good butterfly joints, even with the ankles, just such a great figure. Full pinless. We don't have to worry about seeing those big gaping holes in them. Just incredible figure. And like, to me, that shooter will probably stay in the top 10 longer than anything else that's in my top 10. Top 10 classifieds of all time, top 10 classifieds, anything. I don't care. It will probably top 10 action figures. Honestly, even though I collect other lines, shooter's probably top 5. I mean, it's such an incredible figure.
So I'll summarize briefly why Shooter is not my number 1 pick, since it's the only thing left. Didn't make the list at all. I do think the character Shooter rules. I love the concept, love the history, and all of that. And I think this figure is good, not great. I don't like the boots. Sorry, just going to be lumped in there with the common folk. And I wish that the head mold was a little bit more reminiscent of what she looked like in the comic. We don't really have, there's, you know, other than we covered the comic that basically talks about Shooter, and that is like 98% of her appearances in the comic. So I feel like if you're going to make a figure, that should probably be the likeness that you're going off of. And I don't feel like they did that, and I don't hold that against them. I mean, if you want to change it in some way, she's a minor enough character that you can reinvent the wheel a little bit. But it was a sticking point for me that I just, that's how I actually use Shooter a lot in my headcanon because I like her so much. And again, yes, she represents a very marginalized part of G.I. Joe. But those boots, man, they're too big. They look like moon boots.
Stop hating on the boots. They're cool. They're dope.
Sorry.
They're probably the most comfortable.
That's all I'm going to say. So let's conclude with my number 1 pick. I figure I can't believe isn't on your list. The only figure I actually brought on hand to show off is Sergeant Slaughter.
Oh, yeah.
So when the Sarge was announced and we started to see images of it had not been that long since I bought the Action Force Sergeant Slaughter. And I'm not here to trash that figure. I am here to lift up Hasbro's version because honestly, it takes a lot for you to make another version of a figure that I have, and for me to reignite that excitement. When the original Sarge came out, I thought, great, this is a figure we'll probably never get because of licensing rights. And then Hasbro said, no, we're going to do one too. And I thought, well, great. That's, now I'm going to have to get another one, which they're going to be inferior. But they really just went right into the like creative chopping block and delivered something that is just a beautiful version of a well-loved figure overall. His accessories are on point, right down to the little Sergeant Slaughter action figure.
So
it's just a what a touch of genius in the design. Something that, yes, I'll acknowledge doesn't have no playability, minimal photography, but is just cute as all get out. And I was just like, what a great idea. And then all the other stuff is just like his hat, his whistle, his baton. It's all great. Another figure that's well packaged falls under the like Deluxe Junior line, which I think is perfect for him. They're not gouging us for money for stuff we didn't need, but the stuff that we are paying extra for is stuff that we wanted and needed, really. I'm not a mega Sergeant Slaughter, fan. I do love him tremendously. I should get to that up front. I've met him and he's a wonderful man. And I think it says something that this figure really does meet it checks all the boxes. It's an extremely well designed figure. It captures the Sarge's likeness perfectly. He's in an outfit that's reminiscent of his original stuff. I mean, just like boom, boom, boom. I got the other Sergeant Slaughter figure. His hat comes off and is very challenging to keep on in general. This figure has a removable hat and removable glasses, and they work exactly right. Something that doesn't happen even right. The stuff that's coming out right now. I got a Buzzard figure that can't wear his glasses if I glue them on. So the idea that they took the time to make sure this worked at all degrees, because there is you reach a point where you're like, if the glasses don't come on and off correctly, if the hat doesn't fit snugly and securely, just mold it on. If just take the L, because otherwise I'm gonna lose it, or I'm gonna constantly be disappointed in how unplayable it is because of that feature. So the Sergeant Slaughter figure is my #1 figure of 2023. I think it's a work of art, and I salute all the wonderful people that worked on it.
Yeah. All right, so before we move on, just for me to clarify on my basis, I do love that figure. He was in that S tier. He was really high up there. The only thing for me, and the only thing preventing him from being in that top 10, is it's hard for me as a person knowing that Sergeant Slaughter is a real person, and don't look at me.
Say it to my face.
Shame. It's hard for me to be like, oh yeah, Serge, go in this battle and point at the enemy. Like it's just taking him out and like putting him in a battle scene, giving him some kind of weaponry to really make him viable on the battlefield. That was just the one. Like I'm like, he is like the Captain America from the first Avenger. Like he's like the guy who goes and he's like, action figures, buy them, like, and he did his job. It's perfect, but like that's the only reason he didn't, because he's a big figure. The care and detail they put into the hat and the glasses and all of that, it's absolutely incredible. They knocked it out of the park. I don't want to come off as saying anything's wrong with that figure. It's just the way he works in my universe and how it's used. That's the reason he's not on there. I apologize, because I know he watches every one of our episodes. I don't want him getting me.
He's a big fan, sure.
Yeah.
Well, so that went quite differently than I expected, to be honest. I did not genuinely expect to come up with two lists that almost had nothing in common. But that's great. It's what the show is all about, is that we represent two completely different types of collectors. Let's wrap up the show and kind of unleash the chains of the classified world. I had asked Jaren to think about his top 3 acquisitions of 2023, and I put it a very general statement. It did not have to be any one's. It doesn't have to fall under any umbrella. It doesn't have to be classified. I said it doesn't even have to be G.I. Joe if you don't want it to, although clearly mine will be. So let's talk about the best stuff that you got in 2023. I'll go first with my number 3 choice, which I don't have here, but when we went to Winterfest, or maybe Kentuckiana, I get the two confused sometimes now.
Yeah,
I was able to pick up 2 large vehicles, and they're kind of tied for third. It's the Condor, which is a vintage vehicle I've been searching for several years now. It's so large that I knew I would have to get it in person, and I was able to get one from Destro's Toy Den, thanks to Todd, and it was complete. It's beautiful. I've never... Again, this falls in, as a vintage collector, there's not a ton of stuff out there for me that's left, but there is still stuff that I've never literally put my hands on, and the Condor is one of those things. So I was just like, it again is a magical thing where you're like, oh my gosh, it's like you're building a puzzle of everything in G.I. Joe. But until I've actually played with it, it never really seems quite real. I wanted the Condor since the Nintendo game came out. It's one of the very first things it's like the very first boss you have to fight. I was like, that's so cool, but I could never find it in the stores. It was too expensive, yada yada yada. And it's taken this long for me to get my hands on one, and I love it. It's a work of art. The other thing that it's tied with is another large Cobra ship. It's a Night Raven. Now, I've had a Night Raven for several years. I got one in a lot, but it was incomplete. And it wasn't until last year that I realized that it actually has a broken tab on the side where the missiles go. And in my head, mentally, when it's on the core part of the body, can't be fixed. Well, it could be repaired, but I'm not kind of doing that right now. You kind of have to accept that if you want to complete one, you're going to have to replace it. Well, I got a great deal at one of those. It's at one of those 2 shows. One of the 2 Louisville, Kentucky shows that I attend and talk about obsessively. And I got it from Greg at Lost and Found Toys, and it's complete. It is beautiful, so much better looking than the one I had, that I wasted no time disassembling that one and replacing it with that. So my number 3 choice is 2 big Cobra planes, 2 big pieces of the vehicle puzzle that I wanted to mark off, and I was able to, and they are awesome. I don't get a lot of that vintage adrenaline rush as my collection just gets closer and closer to completion. So I do savor those moments. Go right ahead.
All right, so I was trying to think, and I'm like, man, we just did our top 10 classified, so I don't want to. It would be really easy for me to go right back to my top 3. Classified is my predominant collection now. It has overtaken Star Wars, it's overtaken DC, it's overtaken all the little things, random things that I collect. It would be really easy. So I was trying to really think, okay, like, what did I get this year that changed either the way I collected or what I collected? And honestly, you can see it behind me here, these shelves. It's so simple, but having a nice set of shelves that my wife built for me and helped me put up, and like just having that and being able to actually put some figures out and really see them again and play with them instead of having all my stuff on in boxes or just scattered throughout. Like being able to look and like, if I'm like, oh look, here's Darth Vader, I'm gonna go grab him real quick. And having that and being able to see, so you can't see it all in this, but I've got shelves up. The very top shelf has Legos on it. It's got a bunch of random figures. It's got like Captain America from Marvel Legends. It's got the Hammerhead from Black Series. It's got the Indiana Jones Adventure Series. I've got my His Tank up there now, but my Night Raven was up there. It's got the Office Lego set. My Moray's up there on the very top, and then like in the underneath in the bottom, I've got boxes from some of the stuff and my Lego sets, and then I've got a spot for McFarlane. I've got a spot for Black Series. I've got my Joes and I've got my Cobra, and like having Cobra, and then I got my Joes. Having them and having a spot for all of them, not just my bookshelves, which are nice, but they're not the actual shelves that we built and took time in. That thing for me was just being able to renovate this room. That, a little bit of soundproofing to hopefully improve the audio quality, which sometimes lags, but I'm trying to get better there. That kind of stuff to me is I like doing this show because I get a chance to come on here and talk with you, Greg. I like getting a chance to come on here and talk about the things that we like. I mean, there's a reason why I buy these. It's because I like talking about them. I like hanging out with people that like it. And then I get to meet all the great people that listen and send messages in. Like, that to me is like a social output. We don't do this because we're getting rich. I mean, unless Greg isn't pocketing it under the table, I don't know. But having this and trying to just like have a spot that is mine. I got a bunch of kids and they're great. I love them, but like being able to have a little respite for a little bit of time to come talk shop with you and like hang out, have that guide time and just talk about toys and live for a little bit here and not have to worry about the stress of everyday life. I can come down here, shut my door, we can record and talk about toys for an hour and a half or whatever. It's just that to me, as much as I love the classified figures that I got, having this space it outweighs all of it.
I totally get that. As somebody that has both lived with his entire collection in a box and now lives at the best, this is probably the best setup I've ever had for my collection. It is depressing is the right word. When I would be like, oh, I would really like to play with my figures or look at this, or you just can't get to any of it. You can't see it. And there, for sure, there's that moment where I'm like, I can come into this room and it's like I look at this, all the work I've done my whole life to collect this line, and it just like, I don't know, it feels very fulfilling. I know maybe it's a huge waste overall, but it brings me like just a sense of serenity to be surrounded by something that I love, that I've worked so hard on. So I totally get that.
Yeah.
My number 2 choice, best pickup of 2023, is something that we have not talked about on the show because I literally just got it in less than a week ago, and I have it here to show.
I'm excited. An exclusive reveal.
I bought a graded copy of a G.I. Joe comic. Now, earlier this year, we talked about I sent in my G.I. Joe #1 to get graded. You can be on either side of the fence for grading, and I totally understand your perspective. But I am wanting to protect the books that are the most important to me and are also have some value. So the #1 that I sent in came back at a 9.4. It had verified signatures that I've gotten signed over the years, and I love it. It was very close to taking the spot of what I got, but I got such a great deal on this, and I feel like it really caps the my comic book collecting of the vintage run. It's a G.I. Joe 155, and it is graded a 9.6, which is exceptional. Way outside of how I normally... I'm a low-grade comic book buyer, so to have a book of this magnitude, you know, the final issue is probably one of the top 3 most valuable books out there from the original run. To have it in this quality, it really does a wonder for me. On top of that, I own a 155. The 155 I own is the copy that I bought at Kmart the month that it came out. I remember looking at the book. I had just stopped buying G.I. Joe because if you have read the Marvel run, you know that issue 153 and 154 are fill-in books. Larry doesn't write them. They're single stories. They are bad. They are not good at all. So I had dropped just prior to that, maybe because of that. And I remember walking into Kmart, seeing that it says final issue in big print on it, and I went, "Oh no, this was my fault. I just stopped buying it. I was the one that it took." And so I was like, "I got to see how it ends." I've been collecting basically my whole life. I mean, I started collecting the comic very early on, so I bought it. Anyway, long story. I recently sent that comic off to get pressed, cleaned, and verified. While it's off getting cleaned and verified, this fell into my lap. I got this book probably $50 to $70 lower than what it's selling at on eBay. Wow. So it was a great deal and was part of the reason I couldn't resist. I thought if this CBCS one comes back and it's graded, I'm not going to say better, there's absolutely no chance of that. But if it comes back a good grade, I have the option to just sell in one. I don't need to keep them both. I'll sell one of them. But yeah, a 9.6. The only thing left now is to get a great looking copy of number 21, and I will have felt like I've really run the gauntlet of graded books from the original run. I've got some other stuff that I want to get graded because I bought a lot of weird low run variants that went up in value during the IDW era, but this bad boy really makes me happy. What's your number 2?
So my number 2 is after I wax poetic about all the ideology of collecting and things, number 2 is just a toy. It's the Hiss Tank. That thing's dope. I mean, we've talked about it I feel like we've talked about it in almost half the episodes we've done this year, and still I feel like we haven't talked about it enough because that thing is so cool. Like, as a collector, to have something that can take up the size of the screen that we're on right now, and like to play with. My kids love it. Like, even like is probably not smart as that is. It doesn't matter. I'm gonna do it anyway. But like, just the care that they took into it. Like, the whole team at Hasbro, like, they really knocked it out of the park. I don't want to bore you guys because I feel like we've talked about it a lot, especially lately. But it's something that is so different than anything else we have in our collections, other than when you go back far enough to the flag and things like that. But for modern day, what we've been getting for what we've had in the last 5-10 years, incredible. If you went back, Greg, and told yourself in 2016 or whatever year we were working together, oh hey, in 7 years you're gonna have a Hiss Tank that takes up your coffee table, like, you'd be like, you're on something. Like, yeah. But that's how far this line has come just in the short time that we've been having the classified series. Like, it's incredible. Now we've got a Dragonfly on the way, and then who knows what else. I mean, it's just insane. And so that would, like, to me, like, as far as physical things I picked up, that is it. Like, that is the mecca of collecting for me right now. It's incredible.
Yeah, the classified Hiss Tank is a no-brainer. If you haven't seen it, we have a huge unboxing video where we talk about all kinds of stuff with it. True to form, my Hiss Tank is exactly where I left it when we did that video. It's right here because I still don't know where I'm going to put it. The Hiss Tank is not on my list because I am just not as passionate about the classified line as you are, which is perfectly fine. I do still love it. It's a work of art. It's an amazing piece. But a lot of the stuff that I got that's on my list is stuff that are like, I mean, borderline Grail stuff for me, stuff that I've been searching for a long time. Yeah. Speaking of borderline stuff that I've been searching for a long time that qualifies as a Grail, it's time to talk about my number 1 pick, and it is something that I did also picked up at Winterfest in Kentuckiana. I really go crazy at those shows. It's something that I've wanted for a long time. Jaren, do you have a guess what this is?
Trying to remember what you picked up at those shows.
It's something that I paid a lot of money for. I made an offer on it, and they accepted, and I couldn't pass it up, even though I knew I was going to go into a tremendous debt.
I should remember, but I don't remember.
I won't keep you in suspense any longer. It's the convention exclusive Hotwire.
That's
still
right.
sealed in the bag. You guys know that one of the things I'm really passionate about is characters that don't have a lot of figures or don't have good figure representation. And this is it. This is the only Hotwire there is. And I have wanted it because of that reason for a long time. Well, coupled with the reason he's an awesome character. He's like a bat mechanic. It makes perfect sense. Mindbender can't do every single thing in the lab. Why wouldn't there be some kind of weird, crazy lab dude? I'm not going to go into the details of this story, but essentially I found it at one of the shows. It was the guys that run the Marauders Task Force booth. They had a price tag on it that had been marked down, and I made them an even lower offer than that, which was just about the maximum amount I could have afforded to spend on it. He accepted it, and I was thrilled. I think that's a good price for it. At the very least, that's what it's worth. And I mean, it's unopened, which is also why it's still sealed. I can't bring myself to open something that's worth that much money, at least not until I have a situation in place to use him. And on top of that, it fueled me to go any further because I've started making a custom modern figure of him with the help of Joel from Order of Battle. We worked up some parts. I bought a head, started painting it. It's not done yet, but that's how it is for me. If I really like a character, I really need the figure. And once I have the figure, it lets like unlock something. When I'm writing stories, he starts to show up. It's kind of how Larry has talked about writing before. People would bring him figures, and he would start writing them into the stories. So I totally can relate to him on that level. That's my number one pickup. Literally something that I've looked at for probably since it came out, probably 5-8 years maybe. I've looked at it, and I'm always like, I can't afford that. But when you see it in person, you're like, I could take it home right now. I got a good price. I'm extremely happy with it. It's been a great year for pickups overall. These three things are stuff that's just like, gold, S++ tier.
Yeah.
What's your top of 2023?
Do you have any guess, Greg? Like, I feel like...
Give me a hint.
I haven't bought anything big other than the Histink, and that was bought long ago. At the last Winterfest and everything, I didn't go crazy. This is the cheapest thing we've talked about today.
Oh, God. Is it a badger? No.
Oh, you know. No, it's not a badger.
No, I don't know. I have no idea.
It is right here. It's a comic book.
Oh, God.
301 and 302. And listen, before you get too baffled, we started this show, and I was learning things, and you were explaining G.I. Joe to me, and it's been an incredible ride. But for the first time in our collecting and in our time doing the show, when we go to a Joe show or when we talk to people about Joe, I have something that I have been going on a journey with them the whole time. This new run and the new Energon universe and everything. So for me, fitting with this new relaunch, I now have something that I can look forward to every month and be like, hey, I'm up to date. We have people like our friend Patrick, good friend of the show, Patrick Davis. We've got John Betts, good friend of the show, recently been really incredible reaching out. Like people that like now we're really getting to engage with in a more active level. And to me, I have something I can talk about that is ongoing instead of being like, oh, hey, did you know about that thing that you've been doing all your life? And they're like,
did you know that Dr. Venom's dead?
But now I have something, and it's something so simple. It, like I said, it's $4 or $5, whatever these comic books are now. They're not a lot of money, $4. But I have a comic book. I have a new story that we're experiencing for the first time together. This is something that we don't get to do, Greg, other than a movie. If they had ever released a movie, I don't think they've done that. But it's something new in the Joe universe that we get to experience together for the first time and talk about. And, oh, hey, what's going to happen here? What do we think is going on? And it's a whole new avenue for the show that we get to go down of a current run, something ongoing instead of something that is unfortunately ended. It's something that we really get to talk about, and it's new. The hype is new. There's other new people joining on to the issues. I know we had the ending of the last run. I get that, the IDW run, but that wasn't the same. That had been going on for years. I didn't know that story, but now we had a fresh jumping on a 1, but 301, a new story that's a new world being built that we get to participate in. And it's something that is so new and so refreshing for me. And I'm so happy to finally have that real thing to really connect on and devour at the same time and get to bounce ideas off of.
Yeah, I could echo that. That it is, the purpose of the show, in addition to just kind of talking about the things that we love, is that we also want people that have been gone from G.I. Joe, people that are new to G.I. Joe, to be able to pick it up kind of any point in time. So we did coverage on 301 and 302, and we do it from the perspective of, we don't know how long you've not been reading, so we will try to fill in every blank that we can, every question that could possibly come up. And it's been a year since we've had a G.I. Joe comic, and if there wasn't a part of you that was kind of like, oh, I forgot what it's like to not have a regular G.I. Joe comic to read, no matter how you feel about the run, it's something that I missed. I also missed talking about it. I love having something to speculate on. Serpentor meets this mysterious new ally. I'm like, yes, I got theories, baby. It's like when Lost was airing and still good. Every episode it was like water cooler talk. You get around and hypothesize what was going to happen, and then be wrong later when they disappoint you. Not only that, this is like reminiscent of when IDW was really ramping up with the G.I. Joe line. Not only do we have a Larry Hama driven comic, but we got other stuff going on in a separate continuity that's equally engaging. So I'm absolutely here for it. I love talking about the comic. This is the first time ever where I'm so excited for it. I've been buying them digitally like 12:01 a.m. I'm ready to read it that much. It's not been like that in comics in general. It's not been like that for me for a long time. So I'm loving it. I'm a little stickier on Void Rivals, but I understand that it's going to take longer. We're not jumping in on the 301st issue. It's going to take time to build that world and for me to get engaged. And I'm willing to. You guys know me. I'll just about give anything a pass. There's not been a lot of G.I. Joe activity in it, and that's kind of what I'm waiting for it to pop off.
Yeah.
Great. 2023. Got a lot of great stuff. We saw a lot of good stuff. I'm just like, this was a solid year. No real disappointments for me, honestly. Everything that we've had, I thought was great. 2024, we've got Kickstarter fulfillments happening. Not just launching off with the Art of G.I. Joe Omnibus that Carson Metaxas put out, which we've all been waiting on anxiously, which is a masterpiece. But we've got other Kickstarters that, could potentially be fulfilled by, this time next year or the end of, Q4, which I'm looking forward to. We got a slew of classified stuff coming out, which doesn't really show any signs of stopping. We've got Super 7 O-rings coming. I got a lot to talk about with that. 2024, this is looking to be pretty good for the old G.I. Joe fan. I would love to hear from the listeners and viewers what your top 10 figures are classified to 2023. I'd really like to hear what your favorite pickups of the year. Just what was the thing that fell into your lap that you weren't expecting, or what surprised you. You can leave a comment here. You can write us at anythingjoespodcast@gmail.com. You can contact Jaren on Instagram, me on Twitter, both at anythingjoespod, and we would love to hear anything you got to say. We want to hear. Lots of people have been writing and leaving comments. We really appreciate it. I've recently gotten a barrage of people asking if we're going to start doing the Marvel comic coverage again. Yes, that is on our plate. When we switched over to a YouTube-based format, it changed the way that we edit the show. And because that's such a edit-intensive thing to do, I was still kind of wrapping my head around how to do it. But I think I've got it under control, and so that's coming soon. Probably not next week, but it's in development, I promise. And anything like that you want to see, let us know. This is the collaborative part of this show isn't just Jaren and I working together. It's you, the audience, and listeners as well. We want to make content that you want to listen to. And it doesn't, I don't care. I'll talk about anything. I got an opinion on everything in the G.I. Joe world. So it's whatever you guys want. We'll be back in 2 short weeks with more content. I don't really know what. I do know we got to sit down and talk about these Super 7 O-rings because I got a hankering to just really, really talk about what's going on with those. And we look forward to talking to you then. Thanks so much, Froggy Fresh, for writing our theme song. I sometimes feel like this is not a professional content creation, and so sometimes we get things that I'm like, is this theme song too good for our show? But I want to say thank you for all the hard work you put into it. I hope you guys like it because I paid a lot of money for it. We're going to use it for the rest of forever. We'll talk to you again in just 2 short weeks, or anything's available for discussion here on Anything Joe's.
I'm too clutch. Ain't no pun intended. Call me sir today. Check the prices out. My collection feeling bird today. In this game since 83. You fools ain't the same as me. You frontin'. All these other Joes ain't who they claim to be. Yeah, just the average Joe. That's why Cobra hating me. Yeah, boy, I'm Snake Eyes. That's why Scarlett dating me. I'm gung-ho. Louisiana love me, baby. Sunbow. Yeah, the hero was me, baby. Storm Shadow. Yeah, that's why y'all fear me, baby. Got a lot of Joes. You got none. Come and share me, baby. G.I. Joe. Got my comic book. Watching cartoon episodes. Watch me going box. Dead stock. Jaren on his toes. Watch me going like a whole new world you never know. On my freaking block. On my block. Anything Joe. Yo, what's up? It's Froggy Fresh. Y'all go check out my boys on the Anything Joe's podcast for all your G.I. Joe needs. Let's get it. Peace.
Okay.
That
is
that
my
way
bad,
we
dude.
can
That's
keep.
totally on me.
You're good. I mean, the next 3 above it are all 23 figures.
Maybe my wife is onto something when she says I have communication issues. I do not. I just like I'm hearing what I want to hear or something.
All
I
right,
don't
I'll
know.
take it from the
All
top
right,
on
go
number
right
4.
Go right ahead.